Oman Sultan Haitham bin Tariq is in New Delhi on a three-day visit to India. He will be received by Indian President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi for a ceremonial welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan on Saturday. This is the first visit to India by an Oman Sultan in nearly 25 years. Sultan Haitham bin Tariq will hold a meeting with PM Modi at the Hyderabad House. He will also visit the National Gallery of Modern Art. On Friday, he met Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar and the two leaders discussed strengthening strategic ties between Muscat and New Delhi. Right, so Oman Sultan Haitham bin Tariq is in New Delhi on a three-day visit. He will be received by Indian President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi for a ceremonial welcome. He'll be getting a ceremonial welcome by President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He will meet today at the Hyderabad House at around 11:30 a.m. and this is the first visit to India by an Oman Sultan in nearly 25 years. Sultan Haitham bin Tariq will hold, like we said, a meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Hyderabad House. He will also visit the National Gallery of Modern Art. And yesterday, on Friday, he met Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar and the two leaders discussed strengthening strategic ties between Muscat and New Delhi. All right, DD India correspondent Amritpal Singh joins us live for more on this. He is in fact on the phone line. Amrit, Sultan of Oman will be meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi today at around 11:30. Tell us the significance of the meeting, and also Dr. S. Shankar met with him yesterday. How crucial was that too?
That's right, Abhishek. He met External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar yesterday, where the two sides discussed the relationship and where it could be taken forward. And those would be the line of discussions between Prime Minister Modi and the Sultan of Oman. The Sultan is carrying a huge delegation, which includes many of his senior ministers and also, people from the business community with him from Oman. So the two sides would be at these delegation level talks and one-on-one meetings between the Sultan and the Prime Minister will be looking at how to strengthen this relationship and take it forward in all aspects. As you know, the two countries are strategic partners. They have a very strong defense relationship which spans not just the Navy, but the Air Force, the Army as well. So strengthening the strategic relationship, then of course they have centuries-old ties. People-to-people connect. We have a huge Indian expatriate population working there. If you were to go by the numbers of the External Affairs Ministry, about 700,000 or 7 lakh Indian expatriates work in Oman alone. Most of them are blue-collared workers, but as Oman is modernizing itself and going more into looking at an IT base, India being an IT superpower, they would want to look at strengthening this partnership and diversifying it from just a relationship where blue-collared workers or a labor workforce goes from India and making it more white-collared and in tune with the times that we live in. Also, from the aspect of regional security, the crisis brewing between the Hamas and Israel, given that Oman is an important Arab country, would also come up for discussions between the two sides. Of course, increasing sea trade between the two countries, would figure prominently in the talks today.
Right, Amrit, and
Abhishek?
also, like you said, that this visit marks a significant milestone in the diplomatic relations between India and Oman. But how crucial is Oman for India, Amrit, and how far the diplomatic relationship has gone since 1955 when the diplomatic relationship started between both the countries?
That's right. It started in 1955 in terms of diplomatic relations between the two modern states. These are centuries-old relationship, which if you go back in history, there was a lot of sea trade between then the Indian subcontinent and Oman. The relationship is crucial from the aspect that given Oman's geographical positioning in the world, it is positioned at a very strategic point from an Indian standpoint. As India strengthens its relationship with the Arab world, this relationship from a strategic point, from the trade point, is a very important relationship because it gives you a very strong foothold in the Gulf, in the Arab Gulf. Now, that is very crucial for India because there are and also for Oman, because very important sea lanes pass through it, especially ones which are crucial to...
All right, we'll come back to you, Amritpal, but we are cutting across live to New Delhi now, where Oman Sultan is receiving a ceremonial reception at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. You can see Indian President Draupadi Murmu there, and also Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Sultan Haitham bin Tariq receive a ceremonial welcome. Right, so DD India correspondent like Amritpal was also saying that India and Oman, they share a long-standing friendship rooted in historical, cultural and economic ties. And the people-to-people contact between the two countries can be traced back 5,000 years ago. And diplomatic relations between the two countries were established in 1955, and the relationship was upgraded to a strategic partnership in 2008.
अतोजना सम्मानगण आपके निरीक्षण के लिए तैयार है दिवास।
थैंक यू फ्रेंड्स।
हाँ क्या करें। हाँ आ जाएगा दोनों। थोड़ा सा पीछे तो शॉर्ट में All right, so these are the live visuals from Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi, where Sultan of Oman, Haitham bin Tariq, was given a ceremonial welcome by President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Sultan of Oman is on a 3-day visit to India, and will also be meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Hyderabad House at around 11:30 a.m. for a bilateral meet, and he will also scheduled to visit National Gallery of Modern Art. And talking about the relations between the two countries, India and Oman, it goes back to 1955 and it was upgraded to strategic relations in 2008. And this visit marks a significant milestone in the diplomatic relations between both the countries, that is India and Oman. We'll keep you updated, and the next schedule is 11:30 a.m. He'll be meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Hyderabad House. Moving on to our next story. India celebrates Vijay Diwas today, commemorating the victory of the Indian Armed Forces in Operation Vijay against Pakistan in the 1971 war. Paying tribute to the brave hearts, Indian President Draupadi Murmu posted on social media, and I quote her, "The nation remembers with gratitude the selfless sacrifice made by our armed forces during the 1971 war. On Vijay Diwas, I pay homage to the brave hearts who displays unparalleled courage and achieved historic victory," unquote. Prime Minister Narendra Modi too paid homage to the brave hearts. In a social media post, he said, and I quote, "Today on Vijay Diwas, we pay heartfelt tributes to all the brave heroes who dutifully served India in 1971, ensuring a decisive victory. Their valor and dedication remain a source of immense pride for the nation. Their sacrifices and unwavering spirit will forever be etched in the people's hearts and our nation's history. India salutes their courage and remembers their indomitable spirit," unquote. And India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, along with CDS General Anil Chauhan, Army Chief General Manoj Pandey, Navy Chief Admiral R. Hari Kumar, and IAF Vice Chief Air Marshal Amarpreet Singh laid wreath at the National War Memorial on the occasion of Vijay Diwas. And Vijay Diwas is celebrated every year in India to mark the victory of India in 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War. After a fierce battle that lasted for 13 days, the war ended on 16th December 1971. On 16th December, nearly 93,000 Pakistani soldiers surrendered in front of Indian Army. Is considered as to the end of the war. This was the biggest surrender in the world in any war after the World War II. The welcome ceremony was attended by several senior officials from all the services of the armed forces and envoys from various parts of the world. Meanwhile, Bangladesh is celebrating its 53rd Victory Day, known as Vijay Diwas, to mark the liberation from Pakistan in 1971 on Saturday. On this day in 1971, the Pakistani armed forces led by General A.A.K. Niazi surrendered before the Indian Army and the Mukti Bahini Liberation Force of Bangladesh with over 90,000 of its troops, which ended the 9-month-long struggle of the people of Bangladesh. Bangladesh President Mohammad Shahabuddin and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina on Saturday paid tributes to the martyrs of the 1971 Liberation War by placing wreaths at the National Memorial in Sawar on the outskirts of Dhaka, marking the 53rd Victory Day. Now, India has called on the United Nations to exercise zero tolerance against terror groups and their sponsors. In an open debate on small arms today, India's permanent representative to the UN, Ruchira Kamboj noted that India attaches high importance to preventing and eradicating the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons.
Illicit traffic of small arms and light weapons and related ammunition is a key enabler for sustaining conflicts by armed and terrorist groups. This necessitates the need for coordinated efforts by states to limit the acquisition of small arms and light weapons by such actors. It is therefore important that this Council exercises a zero tolerance to terror actors and their sponsors, their possession and misuse of small arms and light weapons.
All right, with this, we'll slip into a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Matthew Perry death mystery solved. Friends actor died from acute effects of ketamine.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
We are taking a close look at the profession of diplomacy, the way it has evolved, the Indian Foreign Service, which is the crux of Indian diplomacy, and the changes that we have seen in the Indian Foreign Service over the decades, the challenges that lie ahead for the Indian Foreign Service, and what it is to be a Foreign Service officer.
This is a historic moment for India. And the Foreign Service, the diplomats of today have the great opportunity to take forward the dream, to help realize the dream of a Shresth Bharat, Mahan Bharat, and India's move from a major power to a great power.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. A series of explosions resounded throughout the Ukraine capital Kiev early on Saturday as air defense units engaged Russian drones. Explosions were reported on both banks of the Dnipro River and runs through the city. There were no immediate reports of casualties or serious damage. A new series of explosions hit areas near Kiev's central districts. Witnesses said air raid sirens went off on the eastern bank of the Dnipro River, but on the western bank, police warned residents of the air raid through loudspeakers. And the European Union has failed to agree on a more than $50 billion package of assistance for Ukraine at a two-day meeting in Brussels. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has so far refused to lift his veto, but leaders are confident a deal is within the reach. DD India's Alex Carrier reports from Brussels.
Ukraine will have to wait at least a few more weeks to receive more than $50 billion worth of European support. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban refused to lift his country's veto on the new aid package as part of a broader negotiations over the EU's budget. But leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron, are confident that a deal is within reach, meaning they'll get back around the table here in January or early February to try and finalize an agreement. While Ukraine waits for that outcome, it also celebrates the decision by EU leaders to open its membership negotiations, a long process Kyiv has been eager to start. The negotiations are a 38-stage journey of reform and alignment with the European Union, one that could take a decade. Nevertheless, the European Commission's president says the move sends a clear message.
in a world that is shaken by multiple crises. It's an investment in stability, it's an investment in security of our continent, but of course it's also an investment in prosperity for our continent, and it's a big investment in democracies.
The EU's 27 heads of state also discussed the conflict in the Middle East, with a majority of member states wanting the bloc to call for a ceasefire. They discussed that and potential sanctions against Hamas and Israeli settlers in the West Bank, but stopped short of making any decisions or formal announcements. It's been a long and at times tense meeting of the EU's 27 leaders. They leave Brussels with more work to do on aid for Kyiv and their position on the war in Gaza, but also in the knowledge that Ukraine is one step closer to European Union membership. Alex Kadya in Brussels reporting for DD India.
And Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that the upcoming presidential elections in the country must be competitive and must be held in full compliance with Russian laws. Noting any foreign interference in the election will be suppressed harshly, the president made his remarks at the meeting with heads of parliamentary parties on Friday.
Everything must happen on a competitive basis and in full compliance with the laws of Russian Federation. Any interference in the internal affairs of Russia will be suppressed harshly in accordance with the laws of Russia. We will defend the freedom of our people, their sovereignty and the right to choose their future. It is the people and only the people of Russia who are the only source of power in our country. During the upcoming election campaign, all political parties and factions will one way or other determine their position.
Israel's parliament approved an additional budget of $7 billion to the national budget to help cover costs of the conflict in Gaza, such as compensation for military reservists and emergency housing for the internally displaced. The amendment, ratified by a vote of 59 lawmakers in favor and 45 opposed, increased the 2023 budget to $139 billion. Israel passed the original 2023 budget along with the 2024 budget in May. The Israeli army also released a video showing airstrikes targeting Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. The move comes in response to recent rocket launches. In a written statement, the Israeli military said the airstrikes targeted a command and control center as well as military sites Hezbollah were operating in. Meanwhile, Israel has approved the entry of aid into the Gaza Strip through the Kerem Shalom crossing. In a statement, Israeli Prime Minister's office said the opening would allow Israel to maintain its commitments to permit the entry of 200 trucks of aid per day. It was agreed upon in a hostage deal brokered and implemented last month. The World Health Organization has welcomed the opening of the Kerem Shalom crossing into Gaza. The Danish shipping company AP Moller Maersk will pause all container shipments through the Red Sea until further notice. A spokesperson for the company on Friday said the company has instructed all Maersk vessels in the area bound to pass through the Bab al-Mandab Strait to pause their journey until further notice following the attack on a container vessel. Maersk denied a claim by Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi movement that the militia had struck a Maersk vessel. Maersk said the company was deeply concerned about the highly escalated security situation in the southern Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. Venezuela and Guyana have signed a non-aggression agreement amid tensions between the two countries. The neighboring states both claim the disputed and oil-producing region of Essequibo. However, key issues of the dispute, such as the extraction of resources in the region, were not addressed. DD India's correspondent Mary Trini Mena has more details.
Venezuela and Guyana have agreed not to use force or threaten each other as concerns over the disputed Essequibo region grow. After a meeting hosted by the Caribbean nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and Guyana's President Mohamed Irfan Ali met for talks. The gathering was promoted by neighboring countries such as Brazil, the prime ministers of several Caribbean states, and 2 observers from the United Nations. as part of efforts to avoid a military confrontation between the two countries. This border dispute goes back to the late 1800s, when Guyana demarcated its territory. The former British colony has a large Indo-Guyanese community, and Hinduism is the second biggest religion. Venezuela argued Guyana illegally expanded its border and took land that belonged to Venezuela. Since then, Caracas has been claiming the territory over which Guyana has administrative control. But tensions began to rise almost a decade ago, when large deposits of oil were found in the disputed area. Earlier this month, Venezuela held a referendum to claim the right to that land. Venezuelan officials reported full public support for the initiative. President Nicolás Maduro presented a new Venezuelan map adding the Essequibo region and ordered state companies to exploit oil and gas there. Guyana is challenging the move by its neighbor. The Essequibo is a vast territory, mostly an isolated jungle larger than Greece. Foreign ministers from both countries and other officials created a joint commission to work on resolving the dispute. The two countries agreed to another meeting in Brazil in March. Mari Trinimena in Caracas, reporting for DD India.
And Venezuela opposition presidential candidate Maria Corina Machado on Friday appealed a ban that bars her from holding public office and could prevent her from running in 2024. Machado is among a handful of prominent opposition figures who are subject to the measures which they say are unfair. In a press conference at her party's headquarters, the opposition leader said they would not give any excuse to President Nicolás Maduro's government to derail next year's electoral process. The appeals process, which is open until Friday, was agreed last month at talks in Barbados between the opposition and Maduro's government. All right, time now for another short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. The Court of Justice of West Africa's regional bloc, ECOWAS, orders immediate release and reinstatement of Mohamed Bazoum, the ousted president of Niger. And ASEAN leaders are gathering in Tokyo for a 3-day summit commemorating 50 years of friendship and cooperation between the group and Japan.
Ambitious, future-focused, full of life. Welcome to Heaven on Earth.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of what we have done so far. Oman's ruler Sultan Haitham bin Tariq is in Delhi on his first state visit to India. The Sultan was accorded a ceremonial welcome at Rashtrapati Bhavan today. India calls for zero tolerance for terror groups and their sponsors. India's permanent representative to United Nations stresses need for eradicating illicit trade in small arms and light weapons. Indian President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi pay tributes to brave hearts as India celebrates Vijay Diwas, commemorating the victory of Indian Armed Forces in Operation Vijay against Pakistan in 1971 war. The Court of Justice of West Africa's regional bloc, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has ordered the immediate release and reinstatement of Mohamed Bazoum, the ousted president of Niger Republic. He has been held in detention since July 26th by members of a military junta who toppled his government. DD India's Tessa McKenday reports from Jos.
The judge in the case heard in Nigeria's capital Abuja says the act of the military junta was a violation to the constitution of Niger Republic. He adds that Mohamed Bazoum remains the president of the country. Lawyers to the deposed president took the case to court in September, seeking his release and reinstatement to power. The military rulers have yet to respond to the ruling, which Bazoum's lawyers say is not subject to any appeal. The lawyers have called on member states of ECOWAS to ensure the court's decision is effectively applied. ECOWAS heads of government have slammed a range of sanctions on the junta in a bid to restore constitutional order in Niger Republic. Under the sanctions, the Nigerian government has cut off trade relations and electricity supply to the country. The ECOWAS members have also set up a committee to negotiate with the junta for the president's release and have threatened to invade the country with military power to restore constitutional order if the junta remains defiant. Tessum Akende in Jos, reporting for DD India.
And the United States and South Korea plan to draw up joint guidelines on nuclear defense strategy by the middle of next year. As per South Korean media reports, Washington and Seoul will establish an integrated system to deter North Korea's nuclear weapons on how to contain and respond to Pyongyang's nuclear threat together. The guideline is expected to include methods of sharing sensitive information related to North Korea's nuclear weapons, the consultation process in the event of a nuclear crisis, and real-time communication channels between the two countries' leaders. The US and South Korea are also expected to include nuclear operation exercises in next year's joint military drills, Yonhap said. All these developments are happening in the backdrop of possibility of a North Korean test launching an intercontinental ballistic missile this month, which is a nuclear threat regardless of its range because it can carry a nuclear warhead. And the leaders from ASEAN member countries are gathering in Tokyo for a 3-day summit commemorating 50 years of friendship and cooperation between the group and Japan. The meeting is expected to focus on regional security and result in a plan to implement a new vision for the future of diplomacy in the Asia-Pacific. Chris Gilbert reports from Tokyo.
Well, experts say this is an incredibly important meeting for Japan, as it, even though it's not an ASEAN member, is looking to potentially expand its own influence as a leader of Asia-Pacific countries and its position as a potential go-between, a mediator, maybe even mitigator of ties between the increasingly competing spheres of the United States and China in the Indo-Pacific. Looking at the summit itself, Saturday will be a flurry of bilateral meetings. It's a flurry of bilateral meetings between ASEAN leaders and, of course, Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Joko Widodo, the Indonesian leader who is co-hosting this event. Sunday is going to be the main group sessions, and then on Monday, the ASEC talks, that's the Asia Zero Emissions Community, so energy talks, concluding in a joint statement with, interestingly, an implementation plan that is set to focus on a new vision for the future for the Asia-Pacific, focusing on peace and stability, people-to-people exchanges in new communities and economies. Now, the elephant in the room is, of course, security, and analysts are speculating that this summit may focus on security more than others have in the past, particularly considering that both the US and Chinese leaders have visited Japan in recent days and months, trying to exert their influence and grow their ties with that country. Also, the context is China's increasing and expanding, ever-expanding military and maritime presence in the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. This is directly affecting countries such as Malaysia, Brunei, Vietnam, and the Philippines, which has had several physical encounters with the Chinese Coast Guard just in the last month or so. And so experts are really looking at Japan. ASEAN polling shows that stakeholders in ASEAN nations, the diplomatic community and the business community, do not view Japan necessarily as a powerful economy or security figure in the area. They view China and the US much more as those types of figures, but they do view it potentially as a go-between with its security ties with the US, with its business ties with China. They are looking to Japan to potentially put a step forward and figure out a path for this new vision for the future that is meant to be coming in this joint declaration on Monday. Chris Gilbert in Tokyo reporting for DD India.
In the United States, National Guard troops have been ordered to mobilize to border with Mexico. On Friday, Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs said the U.S. federal government's recent decision to close a legal port of entry in her state has led to an unmitigated humanitarian crisis. Hobbs also stated that the resulting crisis has put public safety and commerce at risk. Border security is shaping up to be a major issue in the 2024 presidential campaign. The decision was a notable rebuke of President Joe Biden by a fellow Democrat. The number of National Guard to be deployed is not clear yet, but that they would be stationed near a crossing which was closed on December 4th. A former lawyer to Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, has been ordered to pay more than $148 million to Georgia election workers in defamation trial on Friday. Giuliani was ordered to pay over $148 million in damages to two former Georgia election workers, Wandrea Shai Moss and Ruby Freeman. He defamed them by falsely accusing them of rigging the 2020 election against Donald Trump. The damages include roughly $73 million for reputational and emotional harm and $75 million as punitive damages for Giuliani's conduct. Giuliani has faced various legal troubles since helping to lead Trump's efforts to overturn the election. Friends actor Matthew Perry died from the acute effects of ketamine, a sedative sometimes used to treat depression. According to the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office, drowning and heart disease were found to be contributing factors. Perry, best known for his role as Chandler Bing of the hit television sitcom Friends, was found dead in the jacuzzi of his Los Angeles home on 28 October. The actor's death happened a year after publication of his memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, in which he chronicled his decades-long bouts with addiction to prescription painkillers and alcohol.
Buprenorphine and the ketamine were likely used in appropriate settings. What was inappropriate in this case was, or potentially inappropriate in this case, is the additional doses of ketamine or the use of ketamine outside of what may have been prescribed or doses that may have been prescribed.
Britain's Prince Harry has been awarded significant damages after London's High Court ruled on Friday that he had been the victim of phone hacking and other unlawful acts by journalists on British newspapers, which was in knowledge of their editors. The Prince became the first senior British royal for 130 years to give evidence in court when he appeared as the star witness at a trial in June against Mirror Group newspapers. The publisher of the Daily Mirror, Sunday Mirror, and Sunday People, who he said had targeted him for 15 years. The judge's decision to award him £140,600, that is around $180,700, and his conclusion that the paper's editors and executives knew about the wrongdoing will be seen a major victory for the Prince.
The acts listed in this judgment are prime examples of what happens when the power of the press is abused. I respectfully call upon the authorities, the financial regulator, the stock market, who were deliberately deceived by Mirror Group, and indeed the Metropolitan Police and prosecuting authorities to do their duty for the British public and to investigate bringing charges against the company and those who have broken the law.
And reacting to the ruling recognizing Prince Harry as a victim of phone hacking and other unlawful acts, Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said on Friday that everyone needs to operate within the law.
Yeah, look, I haven't seen that. I believe obviously in a free and fair press, but ultimately everyone needs to operate within the law. That's what anyone would expect, and that's exactly what this country's always been proud to stand behind.
And shifting our focus to India, the Indian government's outreach campaign, the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra, reached the Vijaypur town in Jammu and Kashmir. The Principal Secretary to the Government, Public Works Department and Agriculture and Farmer Welfare Department joined the Yatra on Friday. They listened to the Indian Prime Minister's message through the Information, Education and Communication van. The occasion was marked by cultural performances on the theme of Dharti Kahe Pukar Ke by school students, and the theme reflects the need to protect the environment and promote sustainable development. The beneficiaries of various government schemes also shared their stories under Meri Kahani, Meri Zubani program. A Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra program was organized in Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, Jaunpur city. The Sports and Youth Welfare Minister of Uttar Pradesh government said that the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, PM Swanidhi Yojana, Ayushman card schemes have benefited every person in the country. People have been experiencing positive impacts of the public welfare schemes of the Indian government. During the program, certificates of housing and loan approval were distributed to the beneficiaries of various housing and monetary schemes of the central and state governments. Meanwhile, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will interact with beneficiaries of the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra today. Prime Minister will also address the gathering on the occasion. Thousands of beneficiaries from across the country will join the event. And during the program, the Prime Minister will flag off the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Telangana and Mizoram. Now, India's Union Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has approved the proposal to declare Surat Airport as an international airport on Friday. PM Modi hailed the decision and tweeted, "Surat is synonymous with dynamism, innovation and vibrancy. Today's cabinet decision on declaring Surat Airport as an international one will boost connectivity and commerce, and it will give the world an opportunity to discover Surat's amazing hospitality, especially the culinary delights." Elevating Surat Airport to international status is paramount for enhancing economic growth, attracting foreign investment and bolstering diplomatic ties. India's Union Minister of Railways, Ashwini Vaishnav, bestowed the prestigious Ati Vishish Rail Seva Puraskar at Bharat Mandapam in Delhi. The 100 Indian Railway employees from diverse zones were awarded for their remarkable contributions and outstanding services. The minister also presented 21 shields to commend efforts in promoting best practices among railway employees. Vaishnav asserted that the railways are fulfilling people's expectations, and under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, the sector is experiencing a golden period. Minister also pointed out that in the last 9.5 years, as much railway electrification has been accomplished as in the preceding 40 years.
किस तरह से रेलवे का एकदम पूरी तरह से ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन का प्रोसेस चल रहा है। जिस तेजी से आप लोग काम कर रहे हो, जिस तेजी से मोदी जी के, प्रधानमंत्री जी के विजन को आप इंप्लीमेंट कर रहे हो, वो आज दुनिया में मिसाल बन चुका है। एक के बाद एक आंकड़े रखे जा सकते हैं। 9.5 साल में इतना रेलवे इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन किया है जो कि उससे पहले के 40 वर्षों में नहीं हुआ था।
Now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Marking the day, Vijay Diwas was celebrated in Indian state of West Bengal on Saturday. The celebrations took place at Vijay Smark in Eastern Command Army Headquarters in Kolkata. India's Defence Research and Development Organization has successfully carried out a flight trial of autonomous flying wing technology demonstrator, which is an indigenous high-speed flying wing unmanned aerial vehicle. With this, India has joined the elite club of countries who have mastered the controls for the flying wing technology. All right, time now for another short break, but still to come on DD India News Hour. US stocks finish higher on Friday following the Federal Reserve decision to keep interest rates steady. And Haryana tops the medal tally with 35 gold medals in Khelo India Para Games 2023.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. In an effort to crack down on industrial espionage, an arrest warrant has been issued for a former Samsung Electronics official accused of giving semiconductor technology information to a Chinese chip maker. A judge issued the warrant on Friday on suspicion the unidentified official gave information related to 18 nano DRAM memory chip technology to China's Changzhen Memory Technologies. Prosecutors said the damage caused by the technology leak could be about $1.8 billion. And U.S. stocks closed mainly up on Friday following the Federal Reserve's decision to keep interest rates steady. The central bank announced the news earlier this week after its final rate meeting of the year. DD India's Sally Patterson has more.
December's rate decision marked the third consecutive meeting in which the Federal Reserve has left rates unchanged. In a statement, the central bank said inflation has eased over the past year, but remains elevated. And on Friday, New York Federal Reserve Bank President John Williams warned investors not to get ahead of themselves, saying, "We aren't really talking about cutting interest rates right now." Meanwhile, the New York Fed's Empire State Manufacturing Survey was released on Friday, and it showed U.S. manufacturing activity continues to struggle as the gauge tumbled to a 4-month low. At the close of trading Friday, the Dow was up 0.2%, the S&P was flat, and the Nasdaq ended up 0.4%. According to FactSet data, all three major U.S. indices gained more than 2% this week. Sally Patterson in New York, reporting for DD India.
All right, sports updates now. We'll start with Para Khelo India Games 2020. Around 1,400 top para athletes from around the country are competing at the maiden Khelo India Para Games 2023. As the multi-sport event comes close to its end, the level of excitement remains high. Chasing the dreams, para athletes vying in para archery, para shooting and para football for podium finish. So far, Haryana tops the medal tally with 35 gold medals, 37 silvers and 19 bronze medals. Uttar Pradesh are second on the table with 24 gold medals, 18 silver and 9 bronze, followed by Tamil Nadu with 17 gold medals. And Swaroop Mahavir Unhalkar's success at Khelo India Para Games symbolizes resilience and determination. Despite being born with severe polio, Swaroop refused to let adversity define his life. In addition to praising the Khelo India initiative, Swaroop also acknowledged the consistent support of Prime Minister Narendra Modi for athletes across the nation. An exclusive report by DD India's Narayan Singh.
Swaroop Unhalkar, a native of Kolhapur, Maharashtra, is rewriting the narrative of courage at the Khelo India Para Games. Born with severe polio affecting both legs, Swaroop's passion for sports became evident from a young age. Enduring multiple surgeries due to his condition, Swaroop emerged as a true fighter. His journey reached new heights at the Khelo India Para Games, where his determination took center stage. He won the gold medal in 10-meter air rifle SH1 event. The Khelo India Para Games received accolades from Swaroop for its steadfast support.
गवर्नमेंट ने फर्स्ट बार जो पहली बार खेलो इंडिया पैरा गेम्स चालू किया, तो इसके लिए मैं गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का बहुत बहुत तहे दिल से शुक्रगुजार हूँ. और इस पैरा खेलो इंडिया का काफ़ी फ़ायदा एथलीट्स को होगा और आगे जाके बहुत खिलाड़ी यहाँ से अच्छा करके इंटरनेशनल को मेडल जीतेंगे।
Grateful for the opportunity, Swaroop also commended Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for consistent support to athletes nationwide.
चाहे जीत हो या हार हो, हमारे जो माननीय प्रधानमंत्री है नरेंद्र मोदी जी, तो खिलाड़ी के पीछे काफ़ी अच्छे तरीके से रहते हैं, उनको मोटिवेट करते हैं और अपने अपने गेम में आगे जाने के लिए हरदम साथ देते हैं।
Swaroop Unhalkar's story serves as an inspiration for budding athletes. The inclusion of para games in Khelo India series paves the way for a more inclusive and empowering future for athletes across the nation.
And ahead of Christmas, the streets of London are dressed up with dazzling seasonal decorations. Tourists and locals spill through the streets of the British capital to do their holiday shopping as carolers in Trafalgar Square bring festive spirit to the city centre. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.